Show's so funny.
What's up?
The show's so funny. And the show here. Yeah. He's from your house. Oh no, I left my glasses at home.
Oh, that's not good. Well, I can make things really big, but that's. Yeah, so today's actually set to be like just letting you guys work on labs, but I want to continue with our exercises in JavaScript. So we're going to do something similar to what we did previously, which was creating a to-do list, but this time we're going to do something that's more similar to what the final project is, which is that we're going to create a form that takes first name and last name, and we're going to create a shorter version, but essentially a wedding invitation. But all it's going to do is essentially as the person types into the first name field and in the last name field, it's going to put their initials, so like S, M, and then it's going to put Sam and Mary invite you to their wedding on, and then we'll have a date field that just says like 7/12/20 or something. Okay, so it's going to be very similar to what we did previously for the to-do list, except instead of pressing enter or clicking submit and then having the to-do list item show up here, we're going to just, as we're typing, have this start to populate. Okay. So I'm going to get into a new branch. Oh, no. Sorry? Yeah, so I'm going to start a new branch. So we're going to check out master, and then I'm going to check out a new branch called invitation. So Sam-invitation. And that should get us back to our blank application. I'm just going to move the script tag down to the bottom of the body for the moment so that we get our JavaScript to work the way that we want it to.
And we're doing that in our Learning Kit file, not our responses.
Yeah, in Learning-Kit. It doesn't really matter. You could do it in responses, basically the same, but guys are like, is it working? Are you good? Or no?
Yes.
No. Yes, no. No's fine. Just,
Oh, I did it wrong.
uh,
I really did check out that.
uh, Got it? Cool. All right, so yeah, the first thing, just go to the index.html file and just move the index.js, this script tag, just move it to the bottom of the body. So it's in the head, we just need to move it to the bottom of the body. And then we can start actually working. So if I want to have a form in the left column, and then in the right column, I want it to actually display information that's coming from that form, what do I need to do? How should I start? How do we do this thing?
Okay. So you would have 2 columns.
So we want to have 2 columns, yeah. So do you remember back to, like, let's use flex because that should be pretty simple.
Okay.
So remember how we do that with flex? Years ago now, I know.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, how are you? So we can just review that. It's pretty straightforward. So in our CSS file, we're just going to create a class called row, and we're just going to say display flex. By default, flex is going to create 2 columns for us. So we can do that, and then we're just going to create 2 divs, and I'm going to put a class on them. We're not actually going to define this class anywhere in our CSS, but it'll make it easier for us to tell what's happening. And we can actually just put the row class on body. Well, we'll create another div. Just want to do something else over here. So we just have to put our 2 column divs inside of our row div, and then they will create 2 columns. We can just put left and right for now, just so we can see it's actually working. Yeah, so we just have a row div.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then 2 column divs, and they just have a left and a right.
Okay, you have a row div and there's a column div inside of the row div.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 column divs inside of the row div. And then the CSS is just row display flex. We are actually going to say justify content space around, which should just spread them across the page for us. So and then do you have the CSS for row? Just be display flex and then justify content space around. No. Yeah, no, or yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay, cool.
1 second.
No problem.
Probably bad boy.
And then, so then we made the column say names.
Say that one more time.
The columns say left and right.
Yeah, I just put left and right inside of the column so we can tell they actually exist.
Can we press that CSS again?
Yep.
Oh, space around, that's right. They're right next to each other.
Yep. Yeah, so space around says space me as far away as possible from both the edges of the page and from any other columns that exist. All right, so and then what I'm going to let you guys try to play with for the next 15 minutes, let's say, is create a form in the left-hand. Whoa. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, welcome back. What are you doing here?
I'm here for an alumni panel for the, just to hear the alumni speak about the immersive course.
Cool, man. How's life going?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything exciting?
No.
Yeah. that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Come back by afterwards.
Okay.
We'll come hang out, but.
Yeah.
You're left play with it.
I have this.
Well. Yeah. So you just have a. Okay. So we only want one row. So what you're doing is you're creating two rows, and so they're going on top of each other, probably.
Yeah.
So if you did, delete that div, just delete that in div, and that should be it. And then you don't need one of these divs for the last one. Yeah. So then you see, so this div and your row, see the blue lines underneath of them. Then if you click, yes, that div is the left one, that div is the right. There you go. Yeah. So it was working, right? It was just you had two rows, so you were creating one row on top of the other. Okay, so what I want you guys to work on the next 15 minutes or so is I want you to create a form in the left column that says first name and last name. So you're gonna have two input text fields.
Yep.
And then on the right-hand side, I just want you to get the right-hand column as you type to say first name and last name. So if I wrote Sam, or I'm sorry, not first name, last name, first name, second name. Or like, let's just do something that's a little bit more. Husband,
Right.
wife. Okay, so if I wrote,
it'd be bride and groom.
yeah, now I'm doing it backwards. Groom, yeah, you know what? She is more important. Bride and groom. Okay,
And then show up.
Mary, Sam, and so it should say Sam and Mary. So it should say groom and bride, I guess.
Gotcha. Yep.
Which remember, like this isn't that far from when we do the to-do list stuff. So you're going to start by putting IDs onto your input boxes. You're going to create an event listener on both of them. So there's going to be two event listeners. You're going to be listening for what type of an event?
Key up or
Key up, yeah. So you're going to be listening for a key up event. And then when the key up event happens, your function should be updating the inner HTML of an element to say such and such and.
gotcha.
Okay. So I'll let you guys do that for the next 15 minutes or so, and then we'll come back together. Hopefully you have some insights, and I'm sure you'll have frustrations, etc. But
So you want 2 inputs in the left-hand column?
Yep. One for bride and one for groom.
But we don't want any list.
We don't want any list. Instead, in the right-hand column, you can really just have one div with an ID of like couple. And you're not going to be appending a child like we did with the. Instead, you're going to be changing the inner HTML of the div with an ID of couple.
Rain, a whole bunch of things that are coming.
Well, just a random question, why would you make it one div of a couple instead of two?
You could do two.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with that. You could do, yeah, bride for one and then groom for another and put the word and in between them.
Right.
The only potential thing with that, potentially reason to put it all in one, is that if you put the and in between it, when you load the page, it's always going to just say the word and. So the benefit of doing it all in the JavaScript and putting it into one place is you can control what shows up. So you can wait until there's at least, I mean, we'll get into this later, but you can make sure that there's at least a groom before you write in. Right? So if they just write the bride, then you probably just write married. And you wait until they put a groom in.
Gotcha.
But you can do it as two. You can still do it as two for the point of this exercise, if that makes more sense.
Okay, so our function should take whatever is submitted into the input button and put it in the right column.
Yes, but there won't be a submit button, which is why. So like, there's no button, right? There's just two input fields, and what you're going to listen for is a key up event on both of these. I mean, if you want to start there, that's fine. And then you have the event listener listen for a click on the submit button, and when that happens, you change the inner HTML. You can do that. That's okay for right now. Seriously, if that's the thing that makes the most sense to you, I'd much rather see that something showing up over here than that you use the key up.
Okay, so when we did it before, we created an element.
Yep.
Just a list item that went into the unordered list.
Yep.
So now we need to create an element to go into the left-hand column.
So no. So now, just put this into your HTML. Where your right column is, just create a new div inside of your right column that has an ID of couple. And then you're just going to change its inner HTML. You're not going to append a child, you're just going to change the inner HTML. Yep.
Do they use that? You can't repeat IDs. Do they use that with different IDs?
You need to have different IDs, yeah.
You put numbers in IDs.
You can, it just can't start with a number.
And so then do you have to write two functions?
No, so you want to have so when you add the event listener, you want to have two event listeners that both call the same function.
Okay.
Well, yeah, are you still using the submit button? Okay, yeah, so you want two event listeners that call the same function.
I don't really understand how key up works. So if you have a key up, but every time you press a button, the key is up.
Every time you
How
press
do
and
you
release a
know?
button, the key will,
How do you know when you're done?
because you won't be pressing the key up anymore.
So it just waits for it to stop after the whole name?
No, so it's going to write letter by letter onto the screen.
Okay. Yeah, you did something wrong here.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
I'm not sure if this should still be here. That's so neat because it's called down here. This is from before.
So you probably don't want that. That's probably from the checkboxing.
Yeah.
I would get rid of. Okay, that's okay. I'll get rid of that if. Just get rid of the whole line 3. Because that was just checking to see if the input value was blank, or in this case not blank. I want to do something with blank.
So these brackets don't need to be there.
You don't need that bracket yet. You can leave that.
Okay.
Just you need that bracket because it closes your function, but you don't need that bracket because it closes the event. Just delete line 3 again. That's it. So yeah, so that's gonna get my input and it's gonna change. So what is couple?
The ID on the right here.
But you can't. So but couple right here is a what? It's a variable which hasn't been defined yet. So you're gonna get couple as undefined when you do that. So what you can use couple as a variable, but what do you need to assign couple to?
The HTML on the right.
Yeah. So how do you get the HTML on the right?
So get element by ID. Couple.
Yep.
So
So you can still say couple equals. So just on so just do couple equals document.get element by ID couple. Yep, and that'll get you like halfway there. So you can try that right now and it should do something. Refresh. Open up your inspector. Refresh. Just type in whatever my input is. I just have to type in whatever my input is. Oh, I think you don't want to capitalize on.
oh, they don't capitalize.
Just go to the right just to be sure. There you go. So you're halfway there. The problem is type something in group. Nothing's happening. And the reason is, so right here, let's go backwards in the code. So you're setting the inner HTML couple to be input value, right? What is the input value?
It's the input value of the first one.
Yeah, but not also the second one.
Okay.
So let's start by just change input value here to be, what was it, bride value? Whatever the first thing is.
Okay.
And then you need to get the group value, right?
So we can do the same.
So yeah, so now we want to set couple inner HTML equal to what?
Both of these. Okay. And
It's a plus. Yep, and so that is very close to being. Go ahead and save it and go look at it. Okay. So the problem is it just puts the two names together. So you can concatenate a string. So after the plus, just do space and then quotes. Do space and in the quotes. Because we're going to concatenate bribe value to a string that is space and space, put a space under. That's it. Plus, and then you have to add, you have to concatenate that to, yeah. Maybe close the inspector. That's it. Good job.
All right. You might want to head this way.
Yep.
Alright, so that's how it looks.
Yep.
And then plug in the HTML. I got that ID's group. Yeah, that's bride.
Yep.
And then I put the husband wife.
Yep.
ID there.
Yep.
So I don't know if I should have did this, but what I did was I created a PO. Do I need to do that?
No, you don't need to.
What is the problem if I did that?
You could do it that way.
And then put the P inside. So what I did was created that, called it his name. That to the room value, which is essentially the value of the room is this.
Yep.
So I can tag and enter HTML to that.
Yep.
Alright, and then that's it.
You misspelled husband. Okay, that's, and then it should show up inside.
So I haven't even done it yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Husband, and then name that element, and then append the child to his name.
Yep.
And then, do I need anything here? We had my button here before. But
Yeah, so
what
that's
ID?
the element that you'll be listening for the key element on.
So that's
So that's what I said. You can do that. I don't know that I would do that. But it's working, right? So the problem is, every time you key up, it's going to create a new element, so a new P, and it's going to append that new element into your room, right? So it's doing exactly what you told it to do.
right.
Instead of doing that, I recommend, like you're doing it right here, right? You're saying his name.innerHTML equals the room value. Just make it so that, so what I would do is create a new value, create a new variable that's called, husband, which actually you're getting right here. So just rename the elements here to husband. And then delete element.parentChild, because you're not going to do that. Going on parent-child relationship. And delete the first, his name equals. And then say his name equals document.get element by group value. Right? So what we're saying now is his name is whatever you type in the group. And the husband is this section over here. So now we're going to say husband.innerHTML equals his name. Yep. So on like the next line.
I'm trying to put the,
Yep. So his name
right.
is, so you're saying search the document, find an element that has an ID of room, that's the input, it's that value, right? So his name is whatever we typed here,
Right.
and then husband is going to search the document for an element called husband, which is this section that's over here, right? And then we're going to say change the inner HTML of my husband element to be his name.
Right. And then on the key up.
It'll do that every time.
So this
So every time you do a key up inside of there, it's going to call this function. So now as you type,
right.
see? So now you have to do the same thing for the wife.
That's not this right.
Nope. So you can actually call that same function. So what you're going to want to do is duplicate that line. Change the room to wife, whatever that input is.
But we
I
haven't.
think I might call it.
Oh yeah, right. But we haven't changed. Do we need? Yeah, we need something for the.
That's okay. We can do it in the same function.
Okay, yeah.
So both of them now, whenever either one of them gets touched, it's going to do this whole function.
Right.
So if you press enter, then we can do her name equals
Value of that. And then
wife, which is your wife element.
equal to.
And then wife, like I said, it's there, so.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yep. So then, to improve upon that just a little bit, if we go back to the code, instead of putting them into two different divs so that you can get the and in the middle of the two names,
Very quickly, if we made this.
yeah, it'll also keep it all in the same line, which would be nice. So that's good. So now, his name you got from the groom, her name you get from the bride, that's great. We no longer want to change the inner HTML of husband, we want to change the inner HTML of couple.
And we need to change this to say couple, right?
Yep.
That's what we're naming the variable.
Yeah, cool. So, and then what I actually would recommend is delete lines 6 and 7. And then we're going to move couple.inner HTML equals his name to after her name. And the reason is that we're going to make the couple inner HTML be his name and her name, right? So do you remember how we like concatenate strings together?
Yeah, give me a second. So what we'll do,
Yep.
like that.
Yep. Yep. But we want that middle string that you created to have to say the word name.
Oh yeah. Pretty fancy.
Yep. So you'll see, you can go ahead and do that. There's one small thing you want to change.
So right there.
Yep. So that works. The problem is,
We need to have it there already.
well, it won't be there. That only happens because, so we can deal with that in a second. The big thing is that you need a space after the end, a space before the end, so that
words are actually separated from each other. Yeah, so if you do that and refresh the page, okay. So now it's actually spaced. And it doesn't show up until you start typing. The reason why it was there when you deleted everything is that now when you delete everything, if you go back to your code, what is his name when it's blank? So what is his name when you delete XZCX? Nothing. And what is her name when you delete X? Nothing. And so what is couple inner HTML then? It's his name, which is nothing, plus and, plus her name, which is nothing. Right. So the reason why it leaves an and is because they're one. Right. So the one way to deal with that is we could use that trim. So we could use that if condition that we used previously, where we say if his name is not blank and her name is not blank, then do this. Otherwise, set couple.inner.html. Right. See what I'm saying? Okay.
Give me a second.
Yep. Yep, and then I'm going to ask you guys to tell me how to do it up here, and then we will, you know what, I mean, you guys are both in a pretty decent place at this point. Let's just try now to add a third input box that's date, and then underneath a couple, I wanted to say, invite you to join them on, and then you're going to have another give for date.
Do you want that to show regardless?
Yeah, we can for now. Yeah, for then we'll just have it always show up. And then it should just put the date there. But essentially, right, we're just adding one more field, and then we're going to put what that new field says.
So we're in the right hand column.
So on the left-hand column, you're going to add one more field.
Okay.
That's date. I want you guys to do it, yeah. So on the left-hand column, you're going to create one more input field named date, and on the right-hand column, you're going to display whatever that date is.
Nice little date drop there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think you're going to find that you probably don't actually want that, but it's okay.
I just realized it. I was like, is that going to send that over?
Yeah, so it'll work. It's just going to give you a weirdly formatted date. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, do it. It's good to see that anyway.
You said invite you to join.
Yeah, invites you to join them on.
And we want that all in the same line.
It could be on the same line, or it could be on two different lines. I don't know. However you want to do it.
If we want to put it on a different line, how would we do that?
Let me see.
Put it in the string.
You could, yeah, because it's actually HTML, so you can actually write real HTML.
Okay, so first.
You could also put it inside of a div, so you could open your div tag here and then the div tag later. But you have to put it inside the string.
Okay, so it has to be in the string.
Yeah, so you can just put it inside of that one. You already have it. And then you just have to close the div at the end. Yeah, what you can do in that space that you're using there. You can also just put like a div right before invites and then a div right after, like in the string.
Oh, so that will take date value to the next line too?
No. So here, let's just try to delete the plus div. Delete the plus name too. Let's just take, okay. Let's put a div just inside of the first report, right before the I. And then just close the div right after home.
But is that going to take it all to the next line?
Yes. So that takes all of that to the next line. So that's the same as writing exactly this HTML in exactly that place on the page. See? That makes sense? And if you inspect it, it might make even more sense. So if you just inspect that, so just right click on this, and then you inspect it. So drag it in. You can see it's literally putting a div tag around,
Okay.
but you don't have divs around these. But that's it. All right, and then since you're there, Shakara, the next thing is I want to have another div up here. And I would actually like, yeah, it's like, I'll just let you. So I want another div, or you can just append it onto the beginning of the string that you're already creating, but I want to have the first initial and the first initial of each of their name together, right? So in the case of Sam and Mary, it would be S and M. Or we do an ampersand.
Okay.
So basically, the challenge, right, is to get the first initial off of each of these words. Chen, just let me know if you start to struggle or you want.
Okay. Misspelled value.
Yep. Syntax errors get you every time.
And we want these initials before the names.
Yeah, so we're gonna want them on their own line above the names. So think about like you're creating a wedding invitation, right? And like the top is like a nice font first, and husband initial, wife initial.
What's the last thing you said? Just got the date to go in.
So then we want above the couple names where we have Sam and Mary, we want to have their initials. So S and M. Which the challenge there again is getting the first initial off of the name. Every day RD.
So do we have to set the so I want to use an array, not pop, right?
So it's a string. So that would be how you would do it if it was an array. But it's a string. It's a string of characters. So technically that might work. No. Well, you have to call it as a function. So you have to actually put like open and closing parentheses.
So arrays always have to be functions.
No. So not arrays. So pop is a function that is made available by JavaScript on all arrays.
Okay.
So on any array that you have, you can name the array and then you can call it pop. But pop is a function, so you have to call it as a function. So the array is not a function, but pop is a function. So on every array that exists inside of JavaScript, it has a bunch of functions that are available that can be called. So if I create an array like this and I say Sam, John, okay, I can call .pop, but it's a function, so I have to actually put I'm sorry, you can't see it, I'm writing all this stuff on the board, but it's .pop, and then I call it with the open and close parentheses.
Okay, so I need to name the array.
No, all you have to do is open and close the parentheses and the thing's gonna work.
Oh.
Because it's a function, right? When we call functions, you have to open and close parentheses. So, yeah, right. It says uncut syntax error, unexpected token. Okay, so the divs have to be inside of strings.
Okay. I did that.
Yeah, so if you put the divs inside of strings and then concatenate it to the pop, I think it's gonna work.
So I did it before and I thought I did it wrong, so I because when you put things inside of quotations, that's what shows up.
So you just want to put div inside of quotation.
Okay.
So remember, what you're putting inside of divs is a string, which is to say it's literally going to stick that piece inside of your HTML. So div is going to go into your HTML as div. When you're calling JavaScript functions or variables, those shouldn't be inside of the string. Because if you put that whole thing like you had it inside of a string, it would literally say bride value dot pop inside of your HTML. So instead, what you want to do is you want to concatenate div the string to the result of bride value dot pop, which would be your first initial, and you want to concatenate that to groom value dot pop, which would be the groom's first initial, and then you want to concatenate that to the closing div. So you just need some pluses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's see what that does.
Type error. Bride value dot pop is not a function.
So that's what I was afraid of. So let's see what bride value is. That's good. Okay, so it's just that a string is not an array, right? So a string is a string. Now it turns out that strings do have an interesting property, which is that they can be treated as an array in certain contexts.
Mm-hmm.
So the characters inside of the string are an array. So if you, instead of doing dot pop, if you just do bride value square bracket 0, then it's going to give you back the first element in the array of a string, which is the first character, which is going to be the initial.
Could we do char at?
Or you can do char at 0 for the string. I think that's good. Yeah, check. And if not, we can do the char. Yeah, it's just because you hadn't put anything there yet. So you're just missing the ampersand in between the N and the T.
Oh. No spaces, just
You probably want spaces. So the spaces are, if you put a space inside the quotes before and after the ampersand, it just creates a space between the letter and the ampersand and the next letter.
right, but do you want space?
I don't, whatever you want, Chicago.
Space and space.
Yeah, it's up to you. This is just an exercise.
Looks like the identifier. Okay.
Did it break? Or?
Yeah,
Got it. Nice. That's awesome. So this is the JavaScript for the final project. So you guys have done, so I would definitely recommend that you add, commit, and push this code, so that you can reference it when you need to do this again. Now that you have gotten to this point, we'll do some cooler things when we get to the actual project in terms of making sure that it doesn't show up with the undefined there and that type of thing. But
can you walk through the example using the char at?
yeah, so the char version, well, I don't have any code, so it's probably easier to just go over. Okay, so the first thing is
So we created another.
initials. Okay, cool. So we want to get initials first so that we can change it to their HTML.
Right, so we're going to.
So just inside of your invite, you can still.
It's still working there.
Yeah.
Does it matter where or which?
It doesn't really matter where. Probably would want to do it after we have his name and her name so we can get the initials on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's fine. So go get, yeah, so let's, good. Set up to some variable initials. And then we're going to set the inner HTML initials to be something. Which is going to be, for right now, just copy here his name plus and plus her name.
Why?
Because that's what we're going to use to figure out initials. It's just that. So his name, you're going to do dot char.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the same thing for her name.
I was going to make a separate function for it, but.
Yeah, I mean, so the function, and we can talk about that for a second. What would the next function be? What would that function be? So what event would you be listening for?
I was going to say as it's keying up, take that first one.
Yep. So we would. Okay. So we're but. Words are hard. So you would still be listening for a key up on agreement with bride, right? And you could potentially call a different function if you wanted to. And you could totally do that, and you would basically take this code and put it there. This is kind of nice because in this function you already have his name and her name, so you don't have to redo that creation of that code.
So right now we just took that div initials, set it to a variable initials, and in each of that, we'll take what we already made here, the value of his name at 0. Now,
That's it.
just yeah. So,
Yep. Nice. So again, that's the final project. So I would add, commit, and push that to your branch so that you have it available to you at a later point in time. The only difference in the actual project is that you're expected,
CSS.
yeah, you're expected to make it prettier. But functionally, from a JavaScript perspective, that's it. Yeah, that's awesome, guys. Like, that really was very well done. So, so the rest of the class today, we're just going to continue working through labs. I will also deploy next week's assignments Next week we get into Ajax, which is something that we haven't talked very much about, but it's what's going to allow us to fetch information from an external source. And then next Saturday, we'll meet at my office and we'll go over how to use third-party packages in our projects. Come on, this one. What?